Now let's take a look at the input settings for our game. These are going to be very important much later on. To access the input tab inside Unity, you can choose Edit, Project Settings, and then from this menu select the option that says Input. And this displays the input manager, which you can see here in the object inspector. Initially there might not seem to be much information. You will see the option here that says Axes, but you can expand the twirly icon to reveal considerably more settings. And you'll notice that these settings are even customizable. This tab lists all of the different input axes that Unity recognizes. So for example, for our 2D adventure game, we're going to be making use of the horizontal axis, which controls the left and right movement of the character. So when we press the left button, the character will walk left. When we press the right, the character will walk right. We're going to be using the vertical axis, the up and down axis, and we'll also be using the jump axis, which determines whether or not the character is jumping. So what we can do, if you want to know what those controls are, you can easily expand the field. So for example, if I click on the horizontal field, I can expand that. I can see that the name of the axis is horizontal, and I can see, for example, that the keyboard controls here are using to drive this input. It's controlling the X axis. So we can see what the different controls are. We can also control how sensitive this axis is. I can do the same if I just roll this back up for the vertical axis. Again, you can see what these controls are. So for example, we can see that it's the WS, A and D keys. So we've got the WS keys here, so the up and down keys. Also, you'll notice that we've got the jump axis, which is defined here. So I can click to expand that. And again, you can see that this relies on the keyboard and the mouse. Again, here we've got the spacebar, which is controlling the jump motion. You will notice that some of the axes are duplicated. For example, further down here we have an additional horizontal axis and an additional vertical axis, and in fact we have an additional jump axis here. Notice this time it's not mapped to the spacebar, but to a joystick button. So the reason for these duplications is to allow different devices, including mouse, keyboard, joystick, and potentially many other different devices. It allows different input devices to map to the same axes, so that when we read them in code, it's possible to achieve the same kind of input effects, even though the player may be using many different types of devices. It creates a certain degree of transparency or agnosticism when it comes to the range of different input devices that the player can use. So I want to show you this input manager because it allows you to customize the controls if you want to use different controls, and it allows you to have a look at the existing axes to see what the controls are.